Welcome to the Coaching Book Club podcast, the show that empowers coaches through books. I'm Christy Stuber, here with my friend and co-host Ken McKellar, and today we're talking about Breakthrough Coaching by Marcia Reynolds. Here's what you can expect in this episode. First, we'll start with a quick overview of the book, what it's about, and why it matters to coaches like you. Next, we'll break down 3 key takeaways that stood out to us and share how you can apply these insights to your coaching practice. Finally, we'll explore how these concepts connect to real-world coaching challenges and help you build confidence, tackle imposter syndrome, and grow as a coach. Whether you've read this book before or hearing about it for the first time, you'll leave with actionable tools to strengthen your skills. So let's get started. Hi, Ken.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How excited are you to talk about this book today?
Shoot, what? You know, I met Marcia. Right when I talk about meeting her, I've never actually met her. I mean, you have though, right?
Yep, I have.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to meet her, but I couldn't. And people would call me up and say, "Hey, Marcia's over here. She's over here in room 210." And I run over to room 10, and somebody else will call me up. "Hey, she's over here. She's over here in the parking lot." I run over to the parking lot. I was like, I want to
Yep.
meet you." I read her first book. That's where I met her. It was called Coach the Person, Not the Problem. And I was like, wow, I was really inspired by that book. I learned a lot. And I was young in my coaching career. So, I read the next book, that I could find. And that was The Discomfort Zone. And I was like, what? Because now we're talking about dealing with emotions in a coaching space. I was like, wow. And then I had opportunity to do her webinar on breakthrough coaching. So I was excited when this book came out, and I'm excited to talk about this book.
Yeah, I read Coach the Person, Not the Problem. It's actually sitting behind me on my bookshelf, and it is so marked up because there was so much wisdom in that. And then I went to Converge in 2024 in Orlando, Florida with you. And I got to meet Marcia twice, and you were so upset with me. Ran into her in the bathroom, couldn't be more gracious, then ran into her again in the parking lot and had a really nice conversation with her. She was lovely. So excited to read this book as well. And for me, one of the most exciting parts of this book was in the very beginning when she talks about coaching is a learning technology that generates long-term behavior change. That really lit me up because learning is one of my favorite things in life. And thinking about it in that context really excited me. What was not a takeaway, Ken, but what's most exciting for you about this book?
I think what's exciting to me about the book is it really takes you on a coaching journey through the coach's perspective. I mean, it talks about actually many of the ICF core competencies. I mean, it just walks you right down and how that shows up as a coach, some examples of what that looks like. And I
Mhm.
also am excited about this book because I can read it a bunch of times. I mean, I've already read it twice, and it still remains a springboard. Also, I just want to pause here and say, you didn't have to say you met her twice. You know how that was going to get me, and you had to bring that up. The audience didn't need to know that. Just say, hey, we already said that when I talked that you already met her. Now you got to bring up that you met her twice. Just trying to get at me. One day I'm going to meet you, Marcia, and we're going to have a conversation about your great work you're doing. But that's
I'm certain you will. And I think you said it right. You can read this book many times. It's really dense again with lots of really great information, lots of good suggestions and concepts around coaching. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us to pick 3, I think, 3 of our key takeaways. But I'd love to hear what one is for you.
well, there's a lot of good stuff in this book, but I think there's one very important one, and those are all my 3. Like 1, 2, and 3, all line up in her first chapter, and that is embody a coach's mindset, learning not only about this craft of coaching, but also learn about who you are, how you show up, how you partner with, what's your collaboration thinking, how do you provide space, what conversations are you having about coaching as you have a hard time in coaching, like where's that support you're getting, whether it's through a supervisor, whether it's through a mentor, or whether it's through one of your just your coaching friends. How do you support yourself? I'm talking about that right there. If you just did that by itself, you're going to be all right. You're going to be okay, because you would stop and realize, hey, you know what? This doesn't feel right. This doesn't sit right. And you can process it. And for me, the processing has been a gift, a great learning opportunity. Because not only am I processing my coaching, but I'm processing my humanity.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, when I don't do those things, then I get caught in my own sort of spin because I have nobody to get me out of it when if I stay too much to myself and don't use my mentoring and supervision. And then I can really fall into the traps that she mentioned, the mental habits that we have as a coach that can block transformation for our
Mhm.
clients. And there are two that really stood out to me. One was uh, needing the client to find the session valuable and
Mhm.
wanting to be appreciated. Recognizing, I think to your point about humanity, right? These are both rooted in fears of rejection and insignificance. These are probably both things that show up in all parts of my life, not just as a coach. And my work then is to use all my support systems like mentoring, supervision, coaching, meditation, all the things that I can do, exercise, to let go of this performance-based idea that I have about what I'm supposed to do as a coach and step into trusting myself, trusting the client, and trusting the process. She actually had one tip that I thought was really interesting, and I've been doing it while we're recording. She offers a practical nervous system tip to sit up straight to reduce internal collapse. Because what she says is that if we hunch over, we're compressing our gut. And so we're losing all that information that might be coming to us through that part of our nervous system. And it could even result in us being less assertive. So I'm trying really hard to sit up straight, open. I see you're looking around. And open to as a way of practicing keeping my nervous system open and flowing so I can more easily trust.
I'm sitting up just straight now. I'm sitting up
Mhm.
straight, and what's coming to me is, wow. You know what? Listen to Heart and Claire Norman, right, along with Marcia. I mean, those three books were pretty strong in who owns the value of the session, right? Who creates the value of the session. I mean, like a real strong in terms of you know, how I show up in a session is not to get to the end, not to get you to get something, not to make you, not you got to get to, right? But it's just that is that being
Mhm.
that inquiry. Isn't that what she said? Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that that is a good lesson. But once again, it still goes back to me. It still goes back to developing as a human being,
Mhm.
because who you are is how you coach. And particularly earlier in my craft of coaching, there was that how the session ended was an impact on who I was.
Mhm.
Now that's shifted because I see myself different as a coach than I did when I first started. And I feel like the impact that we coaches have my philosophy is different than it was when I first started. And it aligns pretty much with like the value of my clients owning their session. And I am partnering with, I'm providing a space. I pretty much work the process. You pretty much work the content, and that's how we get down.
For sure. And there's definitely days where I'm tired, fatigued, and my mood's down, where I still can fall into the traps, right? Because I'm still human. So I'm going to still have that need to be liked. I'm going to still have all those social needs that she talks about in the books that may reduce my ability to be able to keep value with the client. And that's okay. Knowing that is the key, right? Knowing what do I need to take care of myself, knowing when I'm not, what the result is, and being able to identify, yep, here it is. This is what's happening right now. It's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
common humanity. We all of us suffer in different ways in our coaching as coaches.
What what was that word? Did she use unselfing? Wasn't that the word?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, unselfing is about becoming present so that your ego, judgment, all those fall away to the wayside. So you're creating a clear, compassionate container for coaching.
Mhm. Yeah. Which goes to one of my takeaways, which is the importance of having the guide, the coach, to walk people through the reflective insight that our brain, my brain, by itself, is going to avoid discomfort. It's going to avoid hard conversations. It's going to avoid being challenged on my own. If I have somebody else who is compassionate and kind, and I trust, if I have somebody else asking me those questions, I'm more likely to be able to then pull out the stories that are defining my current perspective, to examine them and change them than I am on
Mm.
my own. She talked about a study. You know how I love neuroscience and I love having some research to back up stuff for me to feel validated. And she talked about this brain study in Spain. I don't know if you recall this, but there were three approaches to problem solving um, that researchers were studying using brain imaging. One was going solo, one was getting advice, and the third was being coached with reflections and open questions. And it was only the third, which is coaching, that activated the brain's creative regions, which led to more confident, energized insights.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me though. I mean, it really doesn't. After coaching for so many years, you can almost see it. You can almost see when that avenue of possibility is created and the client is coming up for stuff. You can see it in their faces, you can hear it in their voice, their tone, that something's activated. And the really cool thing about it is when the production of all this activity is something that just happened now in this space. It wasn't something that we came in with, but is maybe a conclusion of something you thought about, or it could be something new. But it's fascinating to see that shift. They call it transformation. I call it wow.
Yeah. It's like magic, which is amazing. I always want to know how the magic trick works, which is why I like the research study that shows how it works. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's another takeaway for you to wrap things up?
Um. Oh yeah, I was thinking about this. So I took the girls out to dinner, and right now I'm just like looking out how life and what you can learn from life and coaching and how it kind of blends together. So I was looking down. I was getting ready to eat. So there was the fork, the knife, and the spoon. And I looked at them, and I got a salad. So I didn't need the the spoon. I didn't need the knife. So I grabbed the fork. And what I thought about was like, Ken, where's this going? Be with me, people out there. I know I'm talking to one person in particularly, but just be chill. I'm coming with this. But what happened is, I started eating with the fork, and I was thinking, right, the fork, the knife, the spoon, they're tools. and she talks about tools in the book and having different tools. But there are certain tools that we use in coaching that with the right tool for the right situation is beautiful. And she also talks about presence as being before any tool, having that presence is paramount.
Mhm. Yeah. I want to connect that with what I thought of as our takeaway, which is when she talks about coaches, it's a metaphor that she used about when her computer breaks down and she calls the computer geek to come fix it, and how we as coaches are the geeks who help our clients figure out what the bug is in their brains
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's, keeping them from making a decision or moving forward with something. Um, and again, I'm thinking about what you said about presence as if my computer is broken and I take it, to get fixed, and my, in quotes, computer geek shows up frazzled and like all out of sorts and not really certain, I'm not going to feel so good about handing my computer over to them to have them fix it. If I show up and they're calm, they're like, yeah, we know what you got to do. We're going to fix this. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to feel much better about trusting them with
Mm-hmm.
this machine that, holds so much of
Mm-hmm.
my life in it. Um, and that goes back to your comment about presence, right? If I'm showing up as really frazzled Christy, my clients aren't going to feel so comfortable handing over their thoughts and beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
feelings. But if I can
Mm-hmm.
be non-judgmental and curious and open, they maybe feel more at ease with doing that,
Mm-hmm.
which then allows them to explore deeper dimensions of themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, and she kind of talks about this in the book. How do you bounce back? Like when you, or okay, let's call it coaching presence. You lose coaching presence. How do you bounce back?
Mm. I actually did a whole presentation on this, Ken. I don't know
I know. I've seen your presentation. I know the gold you have. I've been in your wallet.
You have seen it. Yeah, to me, it's all about self-compassion. It's about acknowledging, like, oh, okay, something's happening. Um, it's taking some deep breaths and getting myself recentered, grounding myself. Those would be the things I'm thinking of. How do you bounce back?
Mm. Well, all that, right? Because I've been to your presentation, but also it's reflecting and journaling and, seeing what's going on with me, right? Because if that is a default I have, like when this comes up, my default is landing here. Now, I want to work on changing that default so I don't land there anymore. There's an opportunity to land somewhere else that's more resourceful for me.
Mhm,
So what you said, and also afterward, doing that work, which goes back to her second chapter, embodies a coaching mindset, which is doing the work on
mhm.
yourself as well.
Yeah, that feels like the theme to me for this book. And maybe I'll apply this to what I'm going to be taking away into my own coaching practice, which is the continual need to do my own work.
Mm-hmm.
It's we talked about the formats, right? Mentoring, supervision, um, journaling, if that works, reflection. What I'm trying to pay attention to are what are the things that are getting in the way. She talks about the emotional saboteurs, and those will still sneak up on me, right? And they still kind of
Mm-hmm.
poke their head over my shoulder. And so I need to learn more about those guys, understand what's going on with them, that they need to sneak in there, um, so that I can show up with more of an open presence for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to apply to your coaching practice?
I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm reminded of, I mean, the safety, trust, connection, rapport. I mean, that's I talk about that every day, almost for the last 4 months. I mean, that's just where I am right now. But I'm also the respect piece resonates right now. Because I talk about respecting the clients, I talk about respecting the craft, I talk about respecting the space. You got to respect the space. I use words like sacred, you know. But what's really coming up and what's really that I want to tune into is respecting myself, you know, in terms of learning, growing. And I'm talking about that 4 levels of psychological safety type of what's his Clark is his name that he talks about, and that learning safety, and part of that is safe to make mistakes, right? And safe to try new things. And as I try new things, safe to make mistakes, right? Because part of the learning and growing is trying some new things and respecting myself, but also, Christy Stuber, respecting the process.
Mhm. Yes, sir, McKellar. It's true. It's there for a reason. It works. Like I said, it's not just magic. There is science behind it. Yeah. Well, that wraps up our discussion today on Breakthrough Coaching by Marcia Reynolds. This book reminded us that coaching isn't about solving, it's about shifting. When clients see themselves differently, they become different. And when we show up with presence, curiosity, and courage, we can help them write a new mental code. We hope these takeaways have sparked new ideas for your practice and inspired you to dig deeper into this incredible resource. Before we sign off, we want to thank you for spending your time with us today. Your commitment to learning and growth is what this podcast is all about. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the Coaching Book Club on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Follow us for even more coaching insights and updates about upcoming episodes. And we're always on the lookout for new books to review. So if you have a favorite book that's made an impact on you, let us know. Who knows? It might be featured in a future episode. Thanks for being part of our community. Until next time, happy coaching.